Yo, what's going on, pimps? I'm your boy Numbskull, and today we're stepping into some familiar serotonergic territory. By homie's request, this is going to be a mind and molecule deep dive on mescaline, which is one of the oldest known psychoactive compounds used by humans and pharmacologically one of the cleanest windows into how 5-HT2A activation can reshape our consciousness. So let's get into it. Mescaline is a phenethylamine, structurally known as 3,4,5-trimethoxyphenethylamine. Unlike LSD or psilocybin, mescaline sits in the same broad structural family as endogenous catecholamines like dopamine, though its receptor behavior is very different. Its 3-methoxy substitutions are critical. That substitution pattern dramatically alters receptor affinity, shifting it away from adrenergic dominance and towards serotonergic activity. It is not particularly potent by weight. Compared to LSD or psilocin, mescaline requires a significantly higher milligram quantity to produce psychedelic effects. That lower potency reflects weaker binding affinity at target receptors, rather than weaker intrinsic efficacy. Mescaline acts primarily as a partial agonist at the 5-HT2A receptor, which is the same receptor widely considered responsible for the psychedelic effects of classical hallucinogens. The 5-HT2A receptor is a GQ11 protein-coupled receptor. Activation stimulates phospholipase C, leading to increased IP3, DAG production, and elevated intracellular calcium. Now that cascade increases cortical excitability, particularly in layer 5 pyramidal neurons of the prefrontal cortex. Fuck me. Perhaps I shouldn't have smoked before recording. When mescaline activates 5-HT2A receptors on these neurons, it enhances glutamate release in corticocortical networks. That glutamatergic amplification destabilizes normal sensory gating and predictive processing. Can you guys tell that I wrote this script before I smoked? The result, perception becomes less constrained by top-down filter. Now, one of the most important systems affected is the thalamus, which is the brain's sensory relay station. Under baseline conditions, the thalamus filters incoming sensory data before transmitting it to cortical areas. Psychedelic 5-HT2A activation disrupts this gating process. More sensory and introspective information reaches the cortex with reduced suppression. Mescaline's relatively sort of transparent psychedelic quality compared to LSD may relate to its moderate receptor affinity profile. It strongly activates 5-HT2A, but without the extremely tight binding kinetics of LSD. That can translate into a more flowing, less rigid perceptual distortion pattern. Mescaline is not exclusively serotonergic though. It shows activity at 5-HT2C receptors, 5-HT1A receptors, partial agonist at those receptors I might add, and a mild affinity for adrenergic receptors. Its phenethylamine backbone gives it weak stimulant properties via sympathetic activation, though this is secondary compared to serotonergic effects. That adrenergic component may explain the increased heart rate, mild blood pressure elevation, peripheral stimulation, and nausea during onset. Unlike amphetamines, mescaline does not strongly release dopamine or norepinephrine. Its stimulation is receptor-mediated, not transporter-driven. Orally active, mescaline has a slow onset, which is often about 1.5 to 3 hours depending on a few factors, quite a long duration of up 8 to 14 hours, and a gradual peak compared to many synthetics. It is not rapidly metabolized by monoamine oxidase in the same way as DMT, allowing for sustained systemic activity without MAO inhibition. Metabolism occurs primarily in the liver via oxidative deamination and demethylation pathways. A portion is excreted unchanged in urine. A little interesting fact for you all. Its long duration reflects both metabolic stability and sustained receptor engagement rather than unusually tight receptor binding. Functional imaging of serotonergic psychedelics shows decreased activity and connectivity within the default mode network, particularly medial prefrontal and posterior cingulate cortices. Mescaline likely follows this same pattern. The DMN is heavily involved in self-referential thinking, autobiographical memory, and ego stability. When 5-HT2A activation disrupts the synchronized DMN activity, the sense of a stable narrative self weakens. That weakening allows increased crosstalk between normally segregated brain networks. This increased global connectivity correlates with synesthesia, emotional amplification, pattern recognition enhancement, and ego dissolution. The brain becomes less modular and more entropic. Now, for some comparison to other more common psychedelics, mescaline tends to show a lower receptor affinity, less dopaminergic interaction, and generally softer cognitive overstimulation compared to LSD, a longer duration, more peripheral adrenergic effects, and often described as more somatic than psilocybin, and less sharp visually, more emotionally expansive than 2CX phenethylamines. Mescaline's subjective profile is often described as clear, heart-centered, and expansive rather than cognitively chaotic. That may reflect its balanced 5-HT2A activation without strong dopaminergic modulation. Like other classic psychedelics, mescaline rapidly induces tolerance through 5-HT2A receptor downregulation and desensitization. Cross-tolerance occurs with LSD and psilocybin because they share the same primary receptor target. Tolerance dissipates after receptor recycling and resensitization, typically over several days. Importantly, mescaline does not produce classic physical dependence. Its mechanism does not directly hijack dopaminergic reinforcement pathways in a compulsive manner. Mescaline is a relatively selective cortical destabilizer. It increases excitatory signaling in higher-order association cortices by stimulating 5-HT2A receptors, disrupts thalamic filtering, weakens default mode network integrity, and increases global neuron entropy. Rather than flooding the brain with dopamine or shutting down the nervous system, it shifts how information is integrated. The molecule doesn't just create visions out of nowhere, it reduces the brain's predictive rigidity, allowing sensory input and internal representations to reorganize in quite novel patterns. At the molecular level, it's GQ signaling and calcium flux. At the network level, it's entropy and connectivity, and at the subjective level, it's altered perception of reality, self, and meaning. And that is mescaline through the mind and molecule lens. I do hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I could teach you some valuable information, even if I stumbled my words, so to say, a lot in here. If so, a like and a subscribe would be a fantastic way to let me know. And a TikTok follow as well, if that's where you're seeing me from. If it is, do go come check out my exclusive content on my YouTube, and don't forget to pop on those post notifications while you're there so you always know when I've dropped new content. Have a story of your own you want to share and hear me read on the channel? You can of course submit it via my Instagram or Facebook, though if you lack those, TikTok DMs will work just fine. Stay frosty, stay curious, and as always, stay safe out there. And with that, I will of course see all of you in the next one. Peace!